welcome back to my channel. This is Peggy with Sweet Tea Makery, and I'm glad you're able to join me today. So in today's video, we're going to learn how to paint a farmhouse sign or board. I'm going to be using this particular project with a silk floral design that I'm going to be doing later this week on YouTube. So if you haven't already joined me, I'm going to ask you to do so now. And if you tap that bell, it'll notify you when I upload new content or when I put some more maker tips for you up there. So for today, I've already did one board so that you could just see a sample of it. But in today's video, we're going to start from scratch. And the product I'm going to use today is a chalk type paint that's a Waverly brand, and they come in a large bottle and a small. These are white. You can get many colors from your local store. I've put a link for most of the products I'm using today down below in the description, so if you're interested, take a look. But just to show you that they have several different types. They have one that's basically a black, which is they call ink here, and there is red, yellow, multitudes of colors. But for today's project, we're going to use white. So again, we're working on a farmhouse look for this board. And so I'm going to tilt you down, and if you have any questions or comments, please let me know. Just put them down below, and I'll try to answer them for you, come back and answer them for you as best as I can. All right, we're going to tilt you down. Let's get started. Okay, so for this technique, we're going to do what we call a dry brush. And what we do is we're going to use a chip brush. These are very inexpensive. They come in different sizes, but for today's project, we're going to use a 1.5 inch chip brush. And honestly, the more that you use these, the better they are. We're going to use some white chalk paint from Waverly, or it's a Waverly product. And in the end, I'll show you some waxing and stain techniques that you can do to your board as well if you would like a darker finish. And then the board. So where I got this board, I went to the local home improvement store, and they had about an 8 foot by 4 foot, I believe, sheet of plywood. And you can kind of just see that this will easily come off, but since this is a sample, I'm not too worried about it. But they cut it down for free. I had them cut several smaller pieces and then left some larger pieces for some larger projects that I'm going to be working on. So the one thing that I want to just tell you, if you are working, I'm working in my kitchen because the hubby is home working from home for the next few weeks. So he's using my craft room. So since I'm in my kitchen, I've put down a layer of wax paper, and I'm just going to use some frog tape to quickly tape it off. That way, if I overbrush my wood, the wax paper will catch it. Plus, this is a great way for a quick and easy cleanup. And I do this sometimes even on my craft table, just to keep it nice and neat and easy cleanup. So let's put down one more piece, and this will keep the paper from shifting on us. And it is easily removed from your table. So there is a nicer side finish, as you can see, and then there's an okay side, you can see. And it just depends on the look you want. I prefer this side. So we'll start on this one. And what we're going to do is do a dry brush technique. And you do want to shake your paint fairly well. I've already done that, so I don't have to do it as much. And you just want to get a little bit, just maybe some up on here. When you do that, I'm going to dip directly into the container. But So you just want to start off with a little bit, especially if you're a beginner. And you just want to drag it across the board. And so I usually work from side to side and from the top down. It's just easier, and you don't tend to get as a heavier coat. I like to go to build my coat up if I need. That way you can always have less and add more versus, you know, taking it off. You can do that. You can do that by actually sanding your piece. And we can go through that little process a little later as well. And I go along the edge a little bit, and the more that you drag through it, the thinner that it'll get. Now, if you want a more lighter coat, you can add a little bit of water to your paint to get that look. And again, we're just dragging it through. I like the look of the natural wood. You could stain it before and let that stain cure for about 24 hours and then come back and paint over it, chalk paint over it. But I like the natural look. It just says more farmhouse. Now, if you get a little thick in some places, don't worry, we can come back and fix that. And again, I kind of just drag it a little bit, spread some of the paint, and then I come back, and I'm not pressing really hard. If you press, the harder you press, the thicker that your paint's gonna be. I just do a light brushing. And sometimes I brush in this direction, and sometimes I do this, especially if I get close to the edge, like right here. I just have more control. And again, the more that you're pressing on this and getting it to, brushing on it, the more that you can, and then if you want to just go a little more, you can start seeing it kind of get a little heavier. If you stay in a concentrated area. And it just depends on the look you're going for. I like a little bit of my paint to come through. Because it looks like that kind of like a washed fence that you would see on a farm, at a farmhouse or a cottage. It has sort of a cottagey look as well, I think. And we're almost done. And this does not take long at all to dry. I mean, by the time I get to this end, it'll be dry. And again, we're just kind of whitewash. It's almost like a dry whitewash. And I don't usually wear gloves. You can, not when I'm painting. Now, when I'm staining, I do prefer to wear gloves, just because the stain is harder to get out. This can be, you can wash it with water. You can wash out your brush with water, and of course, wash the paint off your hands. So that's, I think that's all I'm gonna do for this piece here. Just dry my hands off real quick. And it shouldn't take more than about 10 or 15 minutes to dry. So actually, I'm gonna set this to the side here, and I'm gonna work with the piece that I had already finished earlier. So the technique that I wanna show you here is, we're gonna do two different ones. So we're gonna do the Waverly brand, and it's the one that I picked is the antique wax, and it's called antique wax. And this is a water-based wax. It's very liquidy, so it's very thin. It's not a paste, it's a liquid. So, and it works well. So we might do, I might do actually 3 techniques so you can see them all. So with this one, I'm super careful because again, it is a liquid, and so it's a little harder to control. Does this help? Okay, yeah, see? let me grab my glove because again, it's a wax, but it has stain in it, so I really don't want dirty looking hands. So as you can see, it's very, very liquidy. And all you have to do is take a cloth. This is just a scrap piece of cloth. You can use a cotton t-shirt that you could cut up if you would like, but it does not take much, and you can see it's kind of dark. So generally when you're distressing something, you kind of just want to stay around the edges, and but you can go for a heavier look and spread it through, but that's not what I'm doing today, but I'll show you how you can distress the edges. So you can come along here, and then you just start rubbing it in, and because it has that darker antique wax look, it's going to get a little darker. So you see there how it's gotten there. Now again, if you feel like you've got too much after it's dried, you can come back and sand it, and it will take some of the stain off, but not all of it. So that is one technique, and that's using the Waverly brand. And I'm going to show you another one. It's just a favorite. I've been working with Sloan paints for quite a while, painting craft projects and large pieces. Now this is a little more expensive alternative. This is actually the paint. These are the smaller, what I call project paint jars. You can, if you're doing a much larger, which I do a lot, you can buy it in a bulk. This will go a long, long way. And of course, this will absolutely go a long way. But that is their chalk paint. So what we're going to do now is actually work with their waxes. This is a clear wax. It's a paste versus more of a liquid. And then they have also a dark wax. These usually come mostly, I think, in the smaller cans because it doesn't take much for the dark, as was done here. So what we're going to do is we're going to first use the clear wax. And there's a reason why, because there's a trick to doing this. I don't know if it's a trick, but it's definitely a tip. So when you use the clear wax, you do not want to dip your brushes into the can because you can contaminate it either with bristles, or if you're painting a, say a cocoa color or a French linen or a darker gray, you don't want to contaminate any of that color into your clear wax because you want it to remain clear. So we're just going to do a little sample here. And I have a specific brush that I use for waxing. And when I'm painting a piece, I also have the brush that I just use for painting. They all wash out. This is just some soapy water and you know, kind of like rubbing it around in your palm of your hand and then letting it dry. So I'm not going to wax this entire piece. I just want to give you a sample of how it works. So we're going to go along here. And we might even go up here. Normally, when if I was going to do the whole project, I would go along and use more wax. It doesn't take much, and I would wax the whole board. But for today, we're just going to wax in a little bit of the area so I can show you what I'm referring to. So once you've finished with that clear wax, you want to take a non-dark, let me grab that over here, cloth, and you want to buff it out. It doesn't have to be done hard, but you do want to buff it down some. You want it there. And again, if we had waxed the whole piece, we would buff it out all the way. We're going to set this to the side. So we've done that clear first. And the reason why is that when you go, and you can leave it this way, so what the wax does, it acts sort of like polyurethane does. It seals it, and it also helps to bring out the paint and the natural wood colors underneath, the natural look to it. So it acts as sort of like a polyurethane would if you were just painting a regular acrylic sign. So let's grab that one. And I think I'm going to be okay. I'm not really doing a large project. If I was doing a large project with this dark wax, then I think I would put my gloves back on, but I think we'll be okay. So I like to use craft sticks to take the wax out and just work with the stick as I'm going, because that way I'm not contaminating that container. And it doesn't take much, you see? And we can just set that to the side. So let's go to this up here, so I think you can see it better. So we've laid that clear wax over the top. And we're going to put some of this darker wax at the top. And you can kind of start seeing where it's starting to distress it. And we'll use a little bit more, maybe a little there. Okay, yeah. Just so, I'm going a little heavier here just because I want you to see on camera how it looks, but okay. So you see it has that sort of distressed look. So we're going to go back to the reason why we do clear first. And the reason why is it gives you a little more control over this dark wax, okay? So say we're waxing and we said, oh no, we put too much of the dark on it, or we accidentally hit it like that. Well, what that clear wax does is it acts as a barrier for that darker wax, and you can actually lift it up some. So, you know, you don't have, it doesn't, you know, get on there as dark. I think I'm going to turn this over and kind of show you a little bit. So this side of the board I actually painted with the Sloan chalk paint, and it's already been, of course, waxed. So I'll just give you, just to show you the difference. With the Sloan, it's a thicker chalk paint, and to me it has a more rustic look to it versus the Waverly, which is still has that farmhouse look, but it's a little smoother finish. But I'm just going to show you when you're using both those products while we have everything out. So we would go along and, of course, distress it. And it'll darken up the natural pieces of wood that's underneath there. And again, it doesn't take much to do that. So again, if we made a boo-boo on our paint, that wax is going to help buffer it a little bit, and then you don't have to worry so much about it penetrating, you know, in. And then you can just buff it and keep on buffing it, and it'll help lift it off, just so you can see. And we might make it just a little bit more. We're going to kind of add to it here. And you, again, you can go all the way into your board. You don't have to. Let's just try it. Let's see, just so you can see. You can go all the way in if you want. See how it starts to darken that? But I prefer just that natural light on the back. But you can see, I kind of on the edge. You see how that's working? So I'm going to set this aside and just kind of let it dry while I talk to you about using a stain like a Minwax Stain. So I have a board. I make several of these throughout the year. So this is another board where I've stained both the top and the back. And what I did with this particular one is I drilled some holes. So I first stained it, and I used a product that you can purchase from the home improvement store. And the one that I used was the Minwax. It's classic gray, but of course all those stains. And of course what I did with that was I took a rag, shook it up, took a rag, and I just wiped it on and then wiped it off. And this was the color that it came. And I added a boat cleat because it is a lake sign, so you can, and I'm going to lift you up so you can see me. So it's meant to be hung. You can either hang it in your house. I hang it in mine. I live on the lake, so you can hang a dishcloth from it. We hang our boat keys usually from it, but you can hang a towel if it was out on your porch or whatever you chose to do. So when I used this product with this, I did have a spray, a non-yellowing, and I don't have the can with me, I'm sorry, polyurethane to seal it once I went back and had it finished. So I stained it, I went back with my silhouette and made a stencil, and then I actually used Sloan. I used the what they call old white, which is more of a creamy white, to paint with, but you can use an acrylic paint just as well, and then just go back and seal it. So that's sort of about painting a farmhouse sign fairly quickly and fairly easily. Now, if you would want to, I don't see why it would be a problem if you wanted to paint it with this chalk paint, because it is an acrylic paint. It's an acrylic base paint. The Sloan is just a chalk paint with some additives in it. It's not an acrylic. So if you wanted to, instead of the paste wax, you could go back, and if you like the way it looked, you could certainly spray over it with the polyurethane spray, but I would not combine the wax and the spray together. That's just my personal recommendation. So I hope that you have enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions, again, just put those down there, or any comments. Let me know if you like the video. I'd be glad to do some more painting techniques with you if you would like that. And again, if you hadn't already subscribed to my channel, I invite you to do that now and to tap that bell so you'll have some notifications when I upload new content. And I think what I'm going to do is give you a sneak peek. I won't tell you the container that I'm going to use for this project, but I'll give you a sneak peek of some of the florals and ribbon that I'm going to be using. So it's going to be a lemon and a hydrangea floral design, and I found this adorable lemon ribbon, and I just made a quick little bow when I was just sort of testing it out. But I love that color, and so I picked up some of these cute picks, these little hydrangea picks, and then I've got some that looks like, to me, like herbs, and I'm just gonna mix. I have a lemon pick here, and then I had some other ones that I thought, well, I'll just try these out just to see how it looks, and maybe some white flowers to pick up the white flower in the ribbon. And then I did pick up this floral, And what I really like, this actually, as you can see, has black in it. But I like the way that that looked. It gave the whole overall color theory for the florals some dimension. So I just thought I'd show you a sneak peek of the centerpiece that I'll be making to add to this farmhouse board. So I hope you've enjoyed today. I look forward to hopefully seeing you back here again soon. Again, if you have any questions or comments, let me know. I'm also on Facebook at sweetteamakery, where sometimes I'll go live and do some live projects there as well. So, and then I may upload them later to YouTube, just depends. Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. But I've enjoyed teaching you about painting and staining a farmhouse board for my floral projects. So I want you all to have a blessed weekend and a blessed day, and I'll see you again soon. Thank you. Bye.